Good evening, everyone. This is Soham. Thank you for coming in. Looks like it's on the dot, 7:30 on the dot. Let's see, people are still rolling in, which is very good. Some familiar faces in the audience, folks. Very welcome. Welcome, Chandra and Kevin and Steph as well. Wonderful
Hello,
to see
hello.
you all. Let's see. Let's give it a minute or so. See if more people want to show up. Then we keep going after that. Interesting topic today. Mock interviews for EMs or interview practice with managers. Hmm. Okay, why don't we get started? We have about an hour. Folks, very, very warm welcome. My name is Soham. I'm one of the founders of Interview Kickstart. My sense is you are going to see Mr. Varan Wallace pop in at some point as well. We have Steph, who helps manage the whole show. We also have Chandra and Kevin here. The topic today is interview practice with managers from Facebook, Amazon, Uber, and such. And so the idea today is to see if we can do some, rudimentary mock interview type practice. Okay. We have some questions that we'll start with. If we would love for any of you to practice your answers with us, yeah, and we can give feedback right after that. So pretty live feedback format. And then obviously more people want to say, more people we can do. We'll discuss that as well. Discuss the answer. Discuss feedback. Discuss how one could do better as well. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Valis is here as well. Welcome, Ryan.
Yo.
Awesome. Let's do quick introductions. Chandra and Kevin, if you don't mind.
All right. So I'll go first. So thank you,
Please.
Soham. Thank you, Stephanie, for getting us here so that I can share my experiences. But I want to set forth a big disclaimer. I mean, I'm not representing Facebook as a company. I'm just here on my personal capacity. Yep. I mean, so I'll share my lessons from interviewing in all the other companies that I have been a manager in. Obviously, Facebook, Microsoft, Uber, Amazon, Yahoo, and PayPal. And I can share my experiences while interviewing others and also while I was interviewing as an engineering manager. And I learned a lot with failing. So I'm looking forward to this experience.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Chandra. Kevin, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Soham?
Very well. Please tell our audience about yourself also.
Sure. My name is Kevin Finley. I'm in the Bar Raiser program at Amazon, but like Chandra, I am not here in that capacity. I'm just here in my personal advisory capacity. I've also worked at Google, and I'm looking forward to helping some of you succeed at the interviews at some of our companies. And for those who are interested, yes, I am hiring.
Wonderful, Chandra, Kevin. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's see. Let's let's get started. Let's get started with something. Let's just start with some basics. Um, so, in when it comes to mock interviews or just interviews, especially here on a platform like this where we don't have a coding platform and such, most of the all the questions that we are going to do are going to be sort of more behavioral type questions, or things that are like soft skills type questions, and or project type questions, right? Which are easy to debate about, it's easy to probe into, and such. Let's start with sort of the age old question. Given there are a lot of people here, folks, I will start with a question. If you want to volunteer and just speak your answer, please just raise your hand. Yeah. And we'll bring you up to the audience, and you can speak, and then we'll give you feedback. Okay. Let's start with sort of the age old question, which is still the most telling question for everybody. Tell me about yourself. Right? This is an icebreaker question which often is asked at the beginning of the interview, and people speak about themselves, and then the interviewer is basically just trying to understand you, where you're coming from. Right? Tell me about yourself sometimes comes in other ways. Hey, what do you do? And such. But generally, just tell me about yourself. Okay? That's the question. What are some basics around it? Kevin, what would you like to hear when you have a question like that? And then for how long would you like the answer to be? What are some things you would like to hear, Kevin, for a question like that?
So honestly, the only reason I ask that question is as an icebreaker to get the candidate talking and warmed up. I usually, the form that I ask that question is, tell me a little bit about yourself and why company blah. And so I'm interested in just giving them that first opportunity to warm up, and then it tells me a little bit of something in the why of what they're looking for in the company.
So you ask it together. Tell me about yourself and why. Why Amazon, or why whichever company that you're looking for.
Right.
Makes sense. Chandra, what are you looking for when you're asking this question? If you ask this question, do you value this like this? Yeah.
This is always your icebreaker question, like Kevin was saying. Yeah. I think one of the things to remember is the fact that a lot of times you already assume that you have the resume, and a lot of people generally end up going through the whole history of their background. Again, tell me about yourself is not a history of what you have done, and assuming that the interviewer has already read your resume. The biggest thing is to assume that what you're talking about in tell me about yourself is going to set up the rest of the interview, which means focus on your wins, on who you are and what you recognize yourself as. Primarily in a very short and concise way. Like, I would assume this should be within 2 minutes. Like, this is your top wins, and who you recognize yourself as, and that would be really great. Yeah.
That makes sense, folks. If you would like to practice the answer to this question, please just raise your hand. I'll bring you up to the audience, or one of us will bring you up to the audience, and we can give you live feedback. It is going to be very, very valuable to get it. If you want to venture in, don't worry about it. We are not going to judge you. We're just going to give you feedback. For Ryan Wallace, how are you?
Good, dude. So I just want to quickly add to what you're saying. There is no right or wrong answer, guys, here. Okay.
Yeah.
So feel free to come. It's not every day that you are going to get people like Chandra and Kevin who are willing to give you this feedback live, and Soham, right? So feel free to come. I think this is a question that everybody gets, regardless of what level and what role. And in the 20 years that I have, either being interviewing or being interviewed, I don't think I have very rarely seen people answer this question well, even though it's a very predictable question. I have a standard way in which I think, what makes good answers, but we'll go with that in terms of feedback. I think Chandra and Kevin's points are very valuable. So let's just take questions. Let's just take answers from.
Yeah. Satya, do you want to go?
Yeah, Soham, sure. So I can start introducing myself, right?
Yes, please. Just immediately start answering. Yep, certainly.
Sure. This is Satya. I work as a senior engineering manager in Samsung for the past 7+ years. I'm currently in the e-commerce domain, taking care of fulfillment service backend for 15 different countries, leading teams across geographies in Bellevue, Mountain View, Brazil, India, and Korea. And I also recently launched reward service for France Samsung, um, which yielded like 35% of returning customer, and the new user signups increased by about 56%. And prior to that, I did launch e-commerce for Samsung Germany, end to end across all our 23 different microservices suite, integrating with a number of different partners in Germany, like payment partners, fulfillment partners, like carrier adapters, similar to like Verizon, AT&T, and like trade-in partners as well. And um, working with like different product managers, TPMs, and um, different tech leads across different countries, and launch this product successfully, which yielded revenue of like 56 million all the way up to like 125 million. And prior to that, I did work on music app as well, Samsung Music, which had about 20 million subscribers and 4 million plus monthly active users. So this is my experience at Samsung. And I mean, I can continue about my management style and other things if you want.
Interesting. I certainly have a little bit of feedback, but let's start. Chandra, what's your top of mind on this?
Yeah. So I think this is, to some extent, obviously you talked about metrics. So first, I mean, thank you for coming and volunteering for. So you were the first. So thank you. Overall, I think you did talk about metrics. You did talk about some numbers. But remember, I think one of the things is I still don't know exactly what your team does. I mean, so it would make sense. Like, for example, you talked about music. You did give numbers around your product. But what was your team's role in that particular? Like, you can always say, I worked in Amazon. Amazon has billions of users or whatever. But what's the use of that? So you could very well talk specifically about what was your role within that particular organization, and what did you move? And you did talk about that in your primary role. So, yeah.
Got it. And do I need to talk anything about my like my core values about building teams, or like how I hire and those kind of things? Do I need to mention that, or like should that be based on the follow-up questions that comes up?
Yeah, not necessary. Otherwise, it gets pretty long. But I'll leave it to Soham and Kevin to also talk about that. But I would assume 2 minutes is good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Kevin, what did you think?
So I really liked the first part of it. It was at a good detail level, and what I would have liked to have gotten out of that, I was left wondering, well, what did you do? You've been at Samsung 7 years. What did you do before that? And so maybe having a more cursory overview, if that's the face that you want to present to me.
Sure.
To your point about should you explain your core values, I think that you should lead with your strength, and if that is more important to you and conveying that to me as an interviewer than the specific metrics, then I think you should include that in your tell me a bit about yourself, because this is what's going to set up the follow-up questions. Like, if I'm interested in metrics, I can go probe into that. If I'm looking for behavioral things in this particular interview, I'm going to be more interested in hearing about your core values and how you build teams. So maybe just a little more surface, leave the opportunity to ask deeper questions rather than trying to enumerate everything.
Got it. Should I also talk about the technology that I worked on, like Node.js, Kafka, AWS, all those things? Should I talk about that as well?
I wouldn't be interested in the detailed tech, no. Certainly at a company like Amazon or at Google, it's, they're interested in, smart people who can adapt. And the general categories of technology, sure. If you're generally a database person, that's useful information. But knowing that I worked on, version X of technical thing Y, nah. Just kind of knowing the general areas of your expertise is certainly valuable.
Sure.
And by the way,
All right, so I think we should. Sorry,
first.
Kevin, go ahead. Yes, I know that it's the person who goes first who brings everybody else, which is pretty awesome, Satya. So I was saying that I think we should move on. We've got 4-5 more people up just for this specific question.
Yeah, why don't we do this then? Why don't we hear from everybody and then give feedback at once? That might actually help really just elevate the question and figure out what are the patterns of answering that. How does that sound, Ryan?
I would say let's go with individuals and give them quick feedback, and then let's try and overall pattern, because I think if you're giving somebody, what might happen is some of the nuances of what will help people might get lost along the way if you give feedback to everybody at once. So maybe we give shorter feedback to everybody and then try and highlight the pattern at the end.
Makes sense. So, folks, then let me time box this as well. This question.
Yes. Let's time box this.
Exactly. This question, like Chandra said, doesn't need more than 2 minutes generally, and possibly even less. So please keep your answers to less than like minute and a half maximum, right? And to the point from feedback from Kevin and Chandra earlier, keep it slightly higher level, right? Like I currently work at this company. Before that is this. Before that is that. Like, something like that, and slight level of detail. The only piece of feedback I have is, I have is that try and tailor it to the type of role that you will apply to. Right. Often you have the luxury to know what kind of role that you apply to. And I think Kevin hinted this as well. If you are a database person, include things that generally tell me that you are a database person. Assuming you apply to a database role and you are a database person, I mean that actually builds trust, right? This question adds to trust, builds trust, and this is the opportunity to build trust with the interviewer. So try and put some words which align to the type of role that you might be applying to. And again, to Kevin's point, make it curious, right? Add a couple words which elicit questions out of me as an interviewer, right? Like, make me curious about yourself. That this is the opportunity to steer the conversation in the direction where you want it to go, right? Just put a few words which make me curious about the things that you have done and things that you can talk about, right? Just that. Okay. With that, I'm gonna time box this to minute and a half. Try a minute if you can, minute and a half maximum. Okay. Naveen, go.
Hey Soham, hi. My name is Naveen and I'm a lead software engineer at Deloitte. And currently I'm leading 2 high visibility products. One of the teams I joined in late 2019, and since then the revenue generation has grew to 150%. Here the clients are the asset management clients, and we are building the product for them so that they can start make accounting easier for them. The other product is actually a greenfield project, and here our clients are banking firms. Uh, Clients who are using our product, they have reduced the execution time of their performed operations by 91.66%. So because of that, we kept on signing new clients, and it's been 7 years, and we still have ongoing growing client base. Along with software development, I enjoy mentoring my team, do their code reviews, and have multiple people on board to the team successfully and effectively. I also hold my graduate degree in computer science from NYU. In my next role, I'm looking for a leadership role in backend systems at an internet scale company. That's it from my side.
Okay. Chandra, on top of mind?
Yeah. I think, I mean, this is reasonable, at least the size, the timing was good.
Mhm.
One of the things is, again, a little bit more like this is making accounts easy, or like you can be very specific about it. Like, what did you do to make accounts easy? Like, or you could say, my goal was, overall making accounts, accounting easy or whatever. So a little bit more clarity would be, useful.
Okay,
But otherwise, good.
thank you.
Awesome. Kevin?
So for the first minute or so, I was sitting there going, "But what did you do?" There was a lot about how well the group is doing and how well accounting is doing, and there were some metrics, but nothing about you.
Okay.
So yeah, I kept just going, "But what exactly did you do?" Now, finally, towards the end, you got into things like code reviews and stuff, which at least told me a little something about you, the person. Like I really couldn't care less how well Deloitte is doing. Like, I care about you.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Ryan, do you have any feedback on this? Or
No, I think most people have
Yes,
already
okay.
echoed what I was thinking. It would have been nice to know specifically what you did upfront. But I thought overall this was pretty good. I wanted to just echo what Soham said before this. Think about this question as an opportunity to leave breadcrumbs for people to pick up and ask you follow-on questions. Okay. But overall, Soham, I thought this was pretty good for everybody answering this question here. This is a question you should know the answer to in your sleep. So if somebody wakes you up and says, "Tell me about yourself," you should be able to give them a very crisp, concise answer with 2 or 3 things that make you really special within a minute and a half. Right? But that's more generic. I thought this was good.
Thank you.
okay. Awesome. Rajat, go.
Hi, this is Rajat Khattar. Currently, I work at Chetu as a director of engineering, managing a 100 plus team of managers and engineers across 3 continents. I joined this organization in 2013 as an engineering manager and grew with the organization into this role in like 3 years. I specialize in designing large scale technology solutions to solve large problems and lead complex, highly available, fault tolerant systems. Now, I have a deep interest in engineering management, especially on the servant leadership side. Uh, Now, prior to Chetu, I have worked on big payments product with MX. I worked on a manufacturing plant automation for Toyota and a secure cloud-based solution for Chase Bank. I've interned at IBM and have a bachelor's of engineering in computer science. And in my next role, I would like to use my technical and leadership skills to basically enable and deliver enterprise solutions for business to business as well as business to customer applications at my next organization.
Well within time. Thank you. Awesome. Kevin, you want to go first this time?
Sure. That was really good. It left me wondering, what kinds of complex solutions, and so I would want to start probing into what kinds of solutions, what are these reliable solutions, what's their complexity, and it gives me a great place to start the conversation. Part of me was frustrated. It's like, I want to get to that stuff now, which is great. That's what you want out of an interview, and that's how you take. Basically, your job is to corral us, the interviewer, to take us down the paths that are in your favor. And I thought you actually did a pretty good job of that.
Awesome. Chandra?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with, I echo with what Kevin was saying. Effectively, I heard pretty much everything what I wanted to hear in a more concise way. Now, clearly, this will lead to more follow-up questions, but that's actually great. So thank you. Yeah, that's good.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Rajat, just for my taste, there was slightly more buzzwords in there. You could I think tone some of them down, or like slightly more sort of heavy words in there as well, especially the last sentence. Um, but but otherwise, I also thought this was pretty good. Thank you.
Sam, I just want to make a quick point here for
Yeah.
everybody listening. If you listen to the feedback from Chandra, Kevin, and Soham right now, you'd have realized that there is no perfect answer, right? For Chandra and Kevin, this was really good. For Soham, this was good, but Soham was not a fan of the buzzwords at the end, right? And so you are going to get answers and people who will have their unique perspectives. So don't worry about making this the perfect answer. Right? That is something that is very important to keep in mind.
Yep, very well made, Ryan. Yeah, point very well made. And I think I'm gonna die on this hill. The interviews are a date; they're not a test. Okay.
Soham's favorite saying.
Yes, yes, folks. Just quickly refreshing the room. We are in the Great Careers in Tech Club. Ryan and I and Steph run interview Kickstart. The and we prepare people for interviews. Feel free to follow each other and such. Feel free to join us every Thursday evening for some or the other funky topic that we talk about. Um, and yeah, next let's.
So, guys, if you want to know about the rooms that we run that help people prepare for interviews, the easiest way to do it is follow Soham and me, and next to our names, you'll see this bell. Click on the bell. Follow the club as well. That way, you will know whenever we run. Whenever we run these rooms, we run it at the same time every week, and we're always fascinated about helping people get in, prepare, accelerate careers at all the FANG and other top sets of companies, right? So follow, click the bell. That's the best way to know what's going on.
Awesome. All right, Navdeep, go.
Hi guys, this is Navdeep. I currently work as an engineering manager at the New York Stock Exchange. And at New York Stock Exchange, I own the product that's responsible for processing and distribution of exchange market data to hedge funds and brokers. Previously, I worked as an SVP at JP Morgan Chase, and before that, for about 9 years at Bloomberg LP. I have a bachelor's degree in mathematics and a master's degree in computer science. I have a passion for engineering management, and I have a proven track record of building successful low latency distributed market data applications. That's about myself. Thank you.
I like it. I like short, sweet things. But let's have yeah,
Love it.
Ryan.
Love it. Love it.
Love it. Yeah. Awesome. Chandra, Kevin.
Yeah. So I think obviously it's short. This is really good. One of the things is, again, it would be nice to know, you did say you're an engineering manager at NYC and you own a product. It would be great to know your team setup at a very high level. Like you lead a team of X number of engineers, and are they all backend engineers, software engineers, and then you can talk about a little bit more about your product. But otherwise, obviously it's a very short and concise answer. So good.
Sure. Thanks.
Yep, I think I would echo the things that have been said. Maybe talking about like the engineering environment, potentially things that come to mind that may be good, may be bad, depending on the interviewer that you get. New York Stock Exchange could be viewed as something of a tried and true, maybe waterfall-y kind of thing. And so if your management style is more agile, you might want to call that out. If it's more tried and true, 100% reliable and bulletproof, and you want to play up the waterfall mess or the reliability angle, I might call that out. It really depends on what you're interviewing for. But to the earlier points of tailoring it to the job that you're going for. But as far as a cold, this is about me for generic question, I thought it was fine.
Sure. Thanks for the feedback.
Awesome. Thank
So
you.
I have a quick
Yes, please.
thought, right? So we've already answered, we've already seen, oh, sorry, we've already heard, Clubhouse are about hearing 5 people's answers, right, to this question.
Mhm.
And we are about half an hour midway through into the room. Do we want to continue with the same question, or do you want to take the next question and have people answer the next question? Because I think we've got 5 people here, a couple of folks who've just raised their hands who are brought up to the stage as well. How do you want to do this?
My sense is maybe we hear everybody out. I know it might take a little bit longer, but let's stop. Let's have people on the stage just have a chance to do this. That might be better, and then we can go to the next question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Folks, yeah.
I think we'll have less time to take on other questions then.
Yes, and folks, if you're bringing you up to stage, and it's possible that we may switch the question after we have brought you up. So just FYI. Yeah. But still, just be ready. Nobody's judging you here. You can also answer new questions. So. Okay, let's let's hear from Roop.
Hi, my name is Roop Goyal. I'm a principal software developer / manager at ESRI. At ESRI, we make ArcGIS. GIS stands for Geographic Information System. And there, actually, I have pioneered and created a service which is called Feature Service. Feature being geographic features like roads, wildfires, and so on. And this service is used by about 250,000 organizations around the world. When fires happen in California, it is used. And when utility inspectors are going around looking at the faulty circuit breakers and so on, it is used. And so basically the applications are many. I pioneered it, and I'm leading now a team of 4 people, 4 developers. And I interact about 20 people on day-to-day basis to make the work done, to get the work done. I'm about third of time I'm a developer, other time I'm a designer and a collaborator. I'm looking forward to use my skills to do even more scalable work than I have done. And I think we can drill into more, whatever you are interested in. Thank you.
Yeah, Chandra, go ahead.
All right. So thank you, Roop. I think one, obviously, you did connect it to the world problem, so it was pretty exciting to know that your work, really helps the world. One of the things that will be useful is, which I really did not understand, is your role. You did talk about I'm a principal software developer, manager, architect. So sometimes when there's a lot of confusion around what your role is, it makes it a little hard to understand, what will be your future path and what will excite you. So you should hone on a particular role, and you should talk more. Like, you don't need to add everything that I'm an engineer, I'm a manager, I'm an architect, I'm a product manager. Doesn't really help much. So that's the only feedback I had.
Okay.
I think I would echo that. It was one of those things that I wasn't sure what you did, and it leaves you it leaves me feeling awkward. So I'm taking a guess. I think what you do is you're an engineering lead, which has some overlap with all of these other areas. And there's nothing wrong with being an engineering lead. And I think I would lead with that. Assume that I, as an interviewer, am stupid and I don't know you and I don't know what you do, and you can't explain to me the breadth of you as a person. You can only explain to me a few facets. Pick how many of, say, 3 facets do you want to explain? I'm an engineering lead. I'm interested in mentoring my team. I'm interested in working on big problems that help the world. That would be 3 facets. I'm not saying that that's what I got out of what you said. It's just something that could be gotten. And I think clearing it up that way might help a bit.
Okay.
Agreed. Roop, I think one important thing you have to do is you have to exactly know the type of role you're applying, whether it's management, whether it is engineering. If it's a small company, sometimes it is hybrid, but whichever it is, I think having that clarity will help, and that will help you tone this pitch as well. Uh, Generally, I also like the connection to actual problems. So,
Mhm. Okay. Thanks.
awesome. Thank you. Neha, go.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. My name is Neha Purohit. I describe myself as a highly determined and positive person. I'm currently working as a software engineering manager at Accenture, where I'm leading the transformation of testing into a continuous and efficient end-to-end quality engineering process through the use of AI and Java-based framework. I developed the framework, the foundation of the framework from scratch, and now leading the team of four to six people. My team uses predictive and intelligent testing approaches to enhance the overall quality engineering process for my client. I've been in the industry for more than 10 years now, and I have worked in various capacities, started my career as a software developer, and paved my path to become an engineering manager. Throughout my IT tenure, I designed, developed, and delivered IT projects in different tech stack, ranging from large-scale distributed application to currently intelligent automation framework. Over the years, I believe I have built the expertise not only in the technical aspect of the project, but also managing project from initiation to deployment. As a manager, I believe I have interpersonal skills and decisiveness and the ability to achieve tough targets while under pressure. In the past, I have transformed an underperforming team to a high performing team. I work extremely hard to make sure both myself and my team is successful in delivering valuable work to my client and to the company. At present, I'm looking for a role where I got to work with the team of talented engineer and decisive leadership to evolve myself as a better leader. That's all.
Slightly a little too long for my taste, but let's hear from Chandra. Kevin.
All right. So obviously, there was a lot of clarity in the speech. At least it did feel prepared, which is actually a good thing.
Yes.
I don't know if you were reading it from somewhere, but
It did feel like
did you
that.
read this? So that's what I was thinking. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, it was a little long, but I really liked the clarity in speech. I mean, it felt like a radio DJ talking kind of thing. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I've been practicing it for a long time, so now I memorize it.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be.
Yes and no. I'm not completely convinced, guys. So I thought the stuff you said was very good, Neha. One of the things to be careful of is if when interviews are remote, the entire environment is different, right? When it's much easier to see body language, appreciate body language, be influenced with body language when you are live. When you are remote, which is how almost all interviews are, you should modulate significantly. Right now, what happened was, I think the points you made were very good. I think the clarity with which you spoke was excellent. I think like Soham and Chandra said, it clearly showed that you had prepared it. But for my liking, I would have loved if it was a little bit more natural rather than just spewing it out by heart. Because I'm listening to it on audio right now, if I can see you on Zoom, it might be slightly better. But just be aware that when you do this in a remote context, it's super important to modulate. It's super important for the other person to realize that you're not just spewing it out. Okay, that's the one thing that I felt you could have done better. But overall, I thought it was very good.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
So the points that have been brought up, I think I would generally echo. I thought it was a bit too polished. And I thought that it tried to be everything to everyone. So, like, you enumerated a bunch of good points, and I think focusing on fewer of them would have given it a little more punch and left room for more questions. And obviously reduce the length.
Okay.
Yes, and I suppose let me just very quickly say that it was a little too long for my taste, and I think what Kevin was alluding to, you could have left some things out for follow-up questions, though I think
Mm-hmm.
not overly so. That was fine.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Neha. Deepti, go.
Hi, good evening. I'm Deepti. I have a total of 10 years of experience. I'm working at Morgan Stanley as an engineering manager. I head the liquidity risk workflow and tooling team of 10 engineers. I'm responsible for designing robust and customer centric solutions to manage all the liquidable assets for the firm. I did my undergraduate in India, taking back, and I've had the opportunity to represent India as one of the two students selected at the International Youth Forum in Geneva. This led me to actually pursue my master's and come to US. And since graduation, I've joined Morgan, and here my role has been to work across the multiple disciplines within the risk department, ranging from market risk to liquidity. I have developed and delivered on products including procurement, data analysis, process automation. One of the highlights of my career has been to work on a regulatory requirement, which is an annual regulatory exercise called a CCAR, where the data procurement I was improved by 99%. And this helps save the firm close to $2 million year over year. And I've also spearheaded the project for the first enterprise library for the firm. Again, this is for the same CCAR annual regulatory process, which normally the company spends 10 to $15 million. And having worked on similar projects, now I'm considered as the go-to person in my department to build products, which ranges from assembling the correct team, brainstorming, scoping it out, uh, data modeling part, as well as finally the release into production. In my next role, I'm right now ready to amalgamate both my technical and my managerial skills, and I would be interested in building B2C scalable systems so that I could help solve some real world problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepti. Appreciate that. Chandra.
Yeah, I think this, we see, I mean, it was a bit well modulated, at least your answer was clear, modulated. One thing that will be useful is to know, like when you talked about your team itself, you said you're leading this risk and tooling team. I think you can also talk a little bit more about what are your, top level. In this, I wanted to hear a little bit more about what are the problems that you are solving. I mean, just tooling, but what does this tool do? Like, it will be much more easier than a very generic, just tooling kind of thing. And a little bit more about your team would be very helpful. Like, what's the size of the team, and where is it? Is it geo distributed, or is it in a certain location and all? But otherwise, I think I really like the answer overall. Yeah.
So I thought it was well modulated, and I thought there were components that were good. I thought it was a little like this is a pattern that is frequent to these kinds of responses. Like, I don't want to see an enumeration of metrics. Like, I can read that off your resume. I'm certain that every one of those metrics that you mentioned is on your resume. And if I'm looking for that, I'll glance down at the paper. So I'm much more interested in the things that are probably not there, as Chandra said. Obviously, geo distribution of your team and team size are probably on your resume, but what did you do to improve the team would have been more interesting to me than certain millions of dollars and the like. But overall, it was a pretty decent answer.
Okay, very well. Thank you, Deepti. Thanks, Kevin Chandra. I appreciate that. Awesome, Charu, go.
Hi, I am currently working in HP as an engineering manager. I started in HP 7 years back as a solution architect for full stack and e-commerce domain, and slowly moved to supply chain domain as an engineering manager. Currently, I have 3 Scrum teams, which include the PM, architect, and QA. And my role is being a building a block between the business customers and the engineering teams and architects, and move the requirements into the deliverables and match the matrices that they require. I am passionate about 2 things. One is technology, and other is people relationships. And I have and I keep on building on my technology knowledge. And as my teams grows, I meet different people and love to build teams and work with them as a big family. Thank you.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'll let Kevin and Chandra do most of it. My taste, I think there was some buzzwords towards the second last sentence. I'm passionate about technology and people, which generally is assumed when you're an engineering manager. But anyway, sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some buzzwords. Yeah, I noticed that too. But overall, tonight, that's been my favorite answer so far.
Awesome.
It opened up for me the invitation for me to ask you some detailed tech and some detailed personal relationship questions. It concisely enumerated your growth from solution architect to manager by just giving me the bookend as opposed to every single transition along the way. And it explained to me that your 3 teams are diverse in what they cover as well as their skill set. And so, yeah, overall, I thought it was a great answer.
Yeah. I echo what both Kevin and Som were saying. I think one of the things which would be really useful is when people say I lead 3 Scrum teams, I generally get confused because, the Scrum team is made up of multiple components. You have, sometimes you have front-end engineers, back-end engineers, you have test engineers, you have product managers. So it's a little hard to know what does that leading 3 Scrum teams mean. Are you a Scrum master, or when you said in EM? So it might make sense to parse that out. Like, you are probably responsible for the supply chain domain area, which has 3 Scrum teams, and you manage certain engineers within some of the Scrum teams. So it will be easy to know the setup upfront. But otherwise, it was a good answer, short answer.
Excellent, Charu. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. No, I thought it was an excellent answer. Very, very good. I think just the right length. And like Kevin and Chandra said, posed a few questions that one could ask as follow-up. If I were to be just overtly critical and just to try and find something that you could improve on, I think you started off really well. You tapered off towards the end. Right? This is quite a common pattern when answering a question. You don't want to taper off in the end, because the end is what people are going to remember in many ways. Right? So apart from the buzzwords, I think you had some repetition, right, in the end, and it was almost as if you were trying to come up with stuff to say to wrap it up. So if you could just make the end on a strong note, I think that would make this even better. But otherwise, like the guy said, I thought it was a very good answer.
Thank you. Thanks for the comments. And yeah, it's totally unprepared. I just thought that I should jump in and just answer this. So it makes sense.
Excellent.
That's what I need to improve. Thank you.
Excellent.
Very well. That's Charu, how interviews typically work. And I'm overly generalizing, but either interviews work when you have zero prep, or it works when you have full prep. So something in the middle, like, it practically never works the way you want it to work. But very good. Okay, awesome. Rohan, actually before Rohan goes, Ranch, should we announce this engineering manager thing?
Yeah, I think this would be a good time. And also after that, Steph, there are a couple of people who raised their hands who I am not able to get them up to the audience. So I think Sairam is waiting. If you could just get him up as well. All right, so you want to go ahead and announce the EM stuff?
Yeah, folks. So we have been thinking about it for a long time. We have been talking about it for a long time. But finally, we are going to launch an engineering manager program. sometime end of this month and such. And the details, obviously, I won't go into it right now, but feel free to reach out to our enrollment team if there is any sort of interest in there. The anyway, I mean, nothing more, I suppose. There's going to be a specific section there for leadership, where we will practice a whole bunch of these questions which are floating around on the engineering management end, and we will practice them with people like Kevin and Chandra and others as well. And obviously there's going to be mock interviews and such, but more details, I think. Yeah, sorry.
I think the key thing that we're going to do differently, guys, as all of you know, we have had EMs in the program consistently over the last 6 years. What we have decided as a team, and based on the feedback that we've gotten, is that a lot of people are really excited about doing this. In fact, many of our alums are now looking to move to EM roles. So the big difference is going to be that this course will focus only on folks with the view of becoming EMs, and it's going to be taught by EMs from the top companies, and interviews are going to be also with EMs from the top companies, right? So it's very specific, a cohort carved out only for folks who are curious about engineering leadership roles, engineering managers, as well as for directors, right? So more coming up. We launch the first cohort towards the end of the month. All right, let's keep going. Rohan, what's your answer? Let's go.
Hello, everyone. I'm currently working as a senior engineering manager for CBRE. CBRE is the world's largest commercial real estate company. In CBRE, I'm managing and leading 2 engineering pods with around 10 members. Hello, sorry. Yeah, these 2 teams are building for the company its next generation commercial real estate valuation platform. Within this platform, my teams are building a task-based workflow web application. I joined this company last year, and last year I was able to, my teams were able to deliver this application. And previous to this, I have worked as engineering manager for Capital One in its auto finance division, where I last led development of its flagship portal to allow auto dealers work directly with Capital One for processing auto loans. Here I also co-filed design patent for segmenting their dealer customers, and I started my career at Capital One, where I started as a software engineer and worked through the chain. And I contributed and led modernization and cloud migration of their several systems, and such as their internal loan servicing application, their payment processing system, and so on. My core expertise lies in building enterprise scale web applications, staffing software engineering teams from the ground up, and establishing running of well managed systems. I'm currently looking for a leadership role for teams that are building high impact systems. Thank you.
Awesome. Kevin, thoughts?
So I'm thinking maybe just a couple more rounds of practice. It felt like you were a little bit nervous, and that kind of came through. And typically, for the level of seniority that I inferred from the content of the introduction, that might be a negative mark. Not obviously, negative marks are not the end of the interview or anything like that, but I think it would have been, I would note it. So I think just a little more practice would help.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, when my voice echoed, I just stumbled and I lost track what I was planning to say. Yeah.
So Rohan, I think that is actually very good that happened, because you can't predict what's going to happen in an interview. When something like this happens, it's okay to stop, collect yourself, take a deep breath, and start again, right? Or continue from where you left off, probably, right? Preferably. So, you can't predict what's going to happen. It's okay. Everybody's human. Your internet connection might break. The light might go off. You might drop something. The other person might have somebody enter the room. All of this stuff is acceptable in a remote environment. No biggie. Take a deep breath. Just continue. Okay? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, sometimes microphones also go bad. But yeah. Okay, awesome, awesome, folks. Looks like we're
Sorry,
coming up.
so I'm going to take a minute to just point out something really funny to people,
Go
just so
ahead.
that everybody understands that this is human and not and inspires you to not get worried. I have been in an interview, guys, where I have yawned consistently throughout the interview. It was a face-to-face live interview, and obviously it is incredibly rude to keep yawning in the interview, so much so that the interviewer asked me, am I boring you? And I had to say, no, I'm really sorry. It's been a crazy week. I've been working nonstop, and I tend to yawn quite a bit. Needless to say, I'm absolutely excited about the interview, as I wouldn't be here. And the interview went off really, really well. So on a lighter note, you never know what's going to happen. Just calm, collect, compose yourself. Remember, the person interviewing you is also human. They just happen to be on the other side of the table at this point of time. In another context, you could have been on the other side of the table, right? So don't overly stress out.
Yep. One interesting way of picturing that is that the person on the other side is actually wearing a mask. I mean, this is pre-COVID days, where they really are very friendly, but they just have to be wearing a mask during this hour that they are with you as well. So don't worry about it.
And one of the things I think Soham and I talk about a lot is that when you go in for interviews, many people think that the interviewer is against you. They're not against you. They actually want you to succeed. They're desperate for you to succeed, because they're, a Kevin or a Chandra, they are spending highly valuable time in an interview room interviewing you. So you and they are really on you, they, the company, the recruiter, the consultant, everybody's on the same side. Every single person wants you to succeed, right? Including us. So everybody is hoping and rooting for you to do incredibly well. And so, keep that in mind. It makes the interview a lot easier. It's not us, you versus them. It's everybody wanting you to succeed.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's. Yeah. Sorry, Rohan. You were saying something.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan and Soham, for the kind words.
Sure. All right, Himanshu, go.
Yep. Hi, this is Himanshu, and I'm a pretty core technologist by heart, and have a quite a decent experience in application development side, enterprise applications development, and have quite a lot of domains under my belt, like insurance, healthcare, finance, and the retail and e-commerce. So out of which retail and e-commerce is the biggest experience that I have. Around 8 years at Macy's.com, and then I had like 2 years at Albertsons. So I will mostly talk about like my greatest experience what at Macy's, wherein I joined as a software developer, but I grew pretty quickly into a development manager, and I was working mainly on the search, catalog, and browse domains. And it actually grew with the organization to like, and I was like seeing it growing from the startup kind of world to like a more enterprisey. So from there, I took a little bit detour in my career to become an architect and get more hold of an understanding of the enterprise applications across the organization and how things work end to end for a couple of years, and then again came back to the management side to lead a team of pretty good engineers for on the search platform, which was an inbuilt platform, and we were planning to like change it to a more advanced search engine. So that was my pretty much like journey at Macy's, and I came back to management side because I like interacting with more like people and people management skills and have an interpersonal communication with people. So that is the reason I came back to management. And then at Albertsons, I was a director of platform. I actually came back to something to do on the platform side, and there they needed my help on helping the organization from getting to the cloud quickly from their on-prem infrastructure. So I had built a platform on Kubernetes, and also gave them the pipeline to build their applications pretty quickly to go to the cloud, and cultivated a culture of a team of like 15 people to start with, and a culture of agile methodologies, agile development over there, which was missing. So that was like quite a heavy lifting over there. And then I was also heading the integration services platform to convert it into a more advanced platform. But eventually I moved to right now as a senior engineering manager at Shift,
and to deal with more of like a real world problems. And overall, like I'm still a technologist, so I don't care about the domains, but definitely my aim in the next roles is to work with the gig companies and solve the problems at the internet scale, and develop the enterprise level applications and solve problems for the customers. Okay, I'll definitely let Kevin Chandra say stuff, but Himanshu, from my perspective, I think this needs a lot of practice. I think you will need to practice this many more times, make it more concise. Might taste the too many buzzwords also, but I really appreciate the attempt. Not easy to come up in front of 70 people and speak. Very good, Chandra.
Saying, but one of the things which will be very useful is, now in this case I was a bit confused at the end, because like, are you currently at Macy's or Albertsons, and you mixed a little bit around the roles, like you did, well, the good thing is you are very honest, like, hey, I was an EM, then I became an architect. But sometimes these moves need to come with a very valid justification. Like, nobody just becomes an EM and then suddenly becomes an architect. It means something you didn't like in an EM, so you should be very clear, either the setup was not right or you like being an architect. And the worry is, you are a manager now, tomorrow you might say, no, I want to be an architect again. So you have to somehow convince the interviewer some sort of a justification of your career progression, and what were the reasons for that. And obviously it was a little longer, so like Soham was saying, maybe a little bit more preparation would give you a very good context around it. Well, thank you for the answer.
Yep, thanks. Thanks for the feedback.
So it was hard for me to get past. It was way too long. Like, to me, it was not a little too long. It was way too long. The other thing that I noted, so a bit of advice, you could try, like where you started out, where you ended up, and say, and along the way, I kind of did some switching between IC and management roles to make sure that I kept my technical skills sharp. Something like that as a justification. The other thing, though, is you mentioned in there several times that you're a technologist, and so I didn't believe you by the time when you said you wanted to do things for customers. Like, coming from Amazon and being very much ingrained in customer obsession, I believe that you, from that description, that you care more about technology than you do customers by a long shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
That's a fascinating feedback.
Thanks, Kevin.
And Himanshu, we've all said this was quite long. The way to, let's try and figure out how you cut it shorter. The way to cut it shorter is to remember that you don't need to tell people every single thing that you've done, right? You want to pick 2 or 3 of the most important things. Like Kevin said, I thought it was a really nice way of saying it. This is where I started. This is where I ended. Along the way, I dabbled in moving from IC to EM a couple of times for this reason. That would have covered, maybe 20% of your answer in a very short period of time, right? So pick the top 2-3 things that make you interesting. The rest is all in your resume, okay? But like Soham said, thanks for coming up here and for speaking in front. We have about 250, 260 people. We have about 180 people on YouTube. So coming up and speaking in front of 250 people unprepared is very commendable. Good stuff.
Thanks, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks, Manshu. Last but not the least, James, do you want to go?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. My name is James, and I'm an engineering manager at a Silicon Valley startup called Leia. It's a nanotechnology startup. I joined the company a couple years back, and I was tasked with building the software engineering team to help complement the hardware engineering team. I went from being an individual contributor to an engineering manager because I quickly realized that in order for the company to grow, we had to get really good at solving very hard software problems to complement the very hard hardware problems in building our core technology, which is holographic display. one of the things that I learned very quickly was that in order to do that, we had to learn how to break down hard problems into very small, digestible things that were easy to distribute amongst the distributed team, because we had members or team members all over the world. The way I achieve this on a daily basis is by helping the team put together first a really good model for creating architecture that scaled. And so on a daily basis, it's my responsibility to work with my lead engineers to help them build architectural patterns that they can give to the senior engineers on the team. It's my job to help run the engineering ceremonies. And so I run the daily scrums and the daily meetings, and also help the engineering team build and maintain a software application lifecycle. Over the course of the last few years, I've had the opportunity to work on some other really interesting projects across various media companies and finance companies. And one of the things that's led to most recently is an opportunity to bring the skills I've learned from some of those other media companies to Leia. And our most recent project is launching a streaming service that will become the world's first holographic streaming service on a dedicated holographic device. So going forward, I'm really looking for opportunities that let me solve really tough hardware problems by building engineering teams working on the hardest kinds of problems that you have to solve in software. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. Chandra?
Yeah. Thank you, James. Overall, I think one of the things that I still don't know is what does your software team do? So focus a bit more about your team setup, like what is the team doing? Like you did say holographic display, software for holographic display, but your ending was good. Like you said, hey, I'll build a streaming, which is the first in kind. So it would make sense to talk more about your team setup upfront. But otherwise, I think I really liked your ending specifically.
I thought it was a little buzzwordy, and some of those words, like you emphasized hard, and said it with emphasis several times. That was, I found to be quite off-putting, actually. I would have been more interested to know what made it hard. What did you do? So the very useful thing that I got out of that was that you deal with geographically distributed teams, and your response to that is to break the work down into very small units. That has pros and cons, and I would definitely dive into that during your interview.
Thank you.
Interesting. And this time I didn't find it that buzzwordy. But see, yeah, this is where perspectives differ. Very good. Okay, awesome. Thank you, James. Folks, we are up to the hour and a little past the hour as well. We definitely intended to take more questions, but I think this just one was quite popular, quite informative as well. We will do more of these. There are a whole bunch of different types of questions that are floating around today, especially for engineering managers. There are questions on the team culture, questions on hiring, firing, questions on performance and morale building, questions on planning, prioritization, business strategy, and leadership, self-growth, right? All of that. And even for ICs, certainly there are many questions that are floating around. There are some questions which are like slightly psychologically deeper that are also floating around today. Many of these can be answered with practice, and actually all of them can be answered with practice. We'll be here again next Thursday with something interesting. But otherwise, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for putting yourself out there and answering questions. Like Ryan said, we have 200+ people, 250+ people listening. It is not easy to do this, and needs quite a bit of courage. I hope this was very useful. Chandra, thank you very much for your time, for your perspective. Very succinct, very direct answers. Very awesome. Uh, Thanks, Kevin, as well. Very insightful. I think this. I think I would have loved to get this feedback sort of in my early career when I was interviewing as well. Thank you both for coming in and giving very relevant feedback to this. And I'm sure it was useful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us. And just a note to everybody, while we may be critical up here, it's really to try to help you. These are things that we might want to say to actual candidates, but because we have to wear that mask, we're not allowed to. So,
Yeah.
We were trying to give you the unblemished or unvarnished version of what goes through our head as we hear things.
Yeah, and I wanted to add one more thing. This was a great experience to hear, not just from everyone, but even the perspectives. Like so to me, this was a learning experience as well. So thank you, everyone.
Perfect.
Awesome, guys. This is thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you guys next week for another Clubhouse chat, same time. Thanks, Kevin, Chandra, Steph, Prasid. Thank you for putting this together. All right, guys.
Thanks, Prasid.
Have a good one. Bye. Enjoy.
Bye, everybody.